Hi, and welcome to the Why Gender and Social Inclusion Matters in Infrastructure mini podcast series. My name is Ruth Lancaster, and joining me is my business partner and good friend, Dr. Anu Anu and I are co-directors of a small business called Equalus. Just before we shift into this episode, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that we are broadcasting from. I'm on beautiful Wurundjeri lands in Melbourne, Victoria, and Anu is on Kaurna land in Adelaide, South Australia. We would like to pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today.
Hello and welcome everyone to SARIC's mini podcast series, Gender and Social Inclusion Matters in Infrastructure, where we aim to spark conversations and inspire ideas on building infrastructure, transport and energy sectors that are more inclusive. In other words, how can we ensure that our infrastructure investments result in well-designed and managed projects that facilitate gender equality and social inclusion that benefits everyone? This podcast is commissioned under the South Asia Regional Infrastructure Connectivity Program, also known as SARIC, supported by the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade.
Today's topic is focused on diversifying the infrastructure workforce. We will delve into the role of women in electric mobility and hear about the World Bank's South Asia Gender and Energy Facility Assessment on the status of women in energy sector organisations and technical universities. Anu, good morning. Who are we talking to today?
We have with us Gunjan Gautam. Gunjan is a senior energy specialist at the World Bank's South Asia Energy Unit. His work involves overseeing energy sector infrastructure projects in South Asia with a particular interest in hydropower projects. Additionally, Gautam plays a key role in co-leading the South Asia Gender and Energy Facility, SAGE, which serves as the interim secretariat for WePOWER. And finally, we have Aparna Vijaykumar. Aparna is a program manager for electric mobility with Sustainable Cities and Transport team at the World Resources Institute, WRI, India. She supports the work on electric buses, working with bus agencies to aid in their transition to clean energy. She works with stakeholders at the city, district, and state levels to provide technical support, build capacity, shape policy, and bring change on the ground. Aparna is a civil engineer by graduation from the NSS College of Engineering, Calicut University, and holds a master's in urban planning from the School of Planning and Architecture in New Delhi. So, a really great panel today, Ruth.
A very exciting panel. I'm looking forward to the discussion. Good morning, Gunjan. Thank you for joining us. Gunjan, can I start with you by asking, what does the research say about women's participation in the energy sector workforce in South Asia? And what are some of the barriers that women say they are facing?
We started thinking about this in 2018. We had a lot of anecdotal evidence. We didn't see a lot of women participating in our meeting with clients. But we didn't really know what was going on. So we did a baseline assessment, and we looked at the workforce participation of women in South Asian energy utilities and companies, and in universities with programs that can lead to energy careers. What we found was very interesting, and it's documented in World Bank report called Pathways to Power, South Asia Region Baseline Assessment for Women Engineers in the Power Sector. We saw that not a lot of women were entering STEM education programs related to energy. And then we saw those who graduated from these programs did not typically go to energy sector jobs. Those who went to energy sector jobs did not opt for technical roles. And most of the women were in middle or low-level administrative positions. In terms of percentages, the female enrollment rate in South Asia in STEM education program is about 5 to 31%. Female representation in utilities is about 3 to 25%. And women in technical roles tend to be about 1 to 21% of the technical workforce. We found that the barriers for women's labor force participation in energy jobs in South Asia were largely two types. One was the institutional barrier. The other one was the normative barrier. The institutional barriers were quite basic. Women did not have access to facilities or safe transportation. And they did not get same access to training opportunities. Women also did not benefit from provisions like childcare or flex time. The silver lining was utilities were quite open to making changes, and men in the utility were quite open to having more women in the workforce. The normative barriers were interesting and probably more challenging. There were different kinds of active and passive discrimination faced by women working in utilities and in universities. The overlap in experience between women from different sectors is startling. They kind of all go through the same normative barriers. The institutional culture and norms at schools and at organizations are very important. What we found was that the gender-neutral approach that is often mandated by national policies was not adequate. Lack of role model like Dr. Page discouraged women from seeing themselves in energy sector jobs. And also it kind of stopped men from seeing women in technical roles. A few of the key enablers we found was early exposure to STEM education, exposure to role models, and family support.
Gunjan, you're involved with WePOWER. Can you tell us about the South Asia WePOWER network? And can you tell us what are some key learnings from such initiatives that can support diversification of the infrastructure workforce, looking in general and the energy sector in particular?
WePOWER is a network of partners. The partners are largely energy utilities who have recognized the need to attract and retain more women as South Asia transitions to clean energy. Clearly, with the investment that South Asia is going to make in green energy, smart grids, integrating ICT into energy, they will need a lot of people. And the utilities recognize that they need to attract the top talented women engineers. Based on the findings of the baseline assessment, we proposed an engagement framework to South Asia energy sector organizations. WePOWER network has two objectives. The first objective is to support workforce participation of women. The second objective is to promote normative change regarding women in STEM education. It has 5 pillars: STEM education, recruitment, retention, professional development, and policy and institutional change. These 2 objectives and 5 pillars make what we call an engagement framework. We invite energy sector organizations to formulate and implement incremental activities that they think are practical, they think are relevant, and align them with the 5 pillars. Our partners formulate these activities. They tell us what they want to do every year. They do it. They tell us what they've been doing semi-annually. They share their achievements and they share their challenges. We see good, healthy competition between the utilities to do more of these incremental activities. It's very interesting. The collective effort of our partners from 2019 to 2022 has resulted in implementation of about 2,700 activities, benefiting over 68,000 women and girls. Thousands have been through trainings and workshops. Thousands have benefited from STEM outreach. Hundreds have benefited from internships and mentorship. and the organizations are constantly updating their facilities and adjusting their policies. Given that we are in our fourth, fifth year, we are seeing now common problems and common solutions that the partners are trying to implement. The utilities coming together in WePOWER are forming working groups to solve problems like university to job transition by creating an internship module, a WePOWER internship module. They are creating technical training series for various stakeholders. They're thinking about how to get more women to return back to work after maternity.
Thank you, Gunjan. It is positive to see that WePOWER, through the network of its partners, addressing diversification of the infrastructure workforce by reviewing both institutional barriers and normative barriers such as culture and social norms. Welcome, Aparna. It's wonderful to have you with us. We are seeing a transition away from petrol and gas to electric transportation. What opportunities does this present for increasing gender parity in what has been a male-dominated field?
Thanks, Ruth. Thanks for that question. With the advent of electric mobility, several traditional prejudices, including driving and working in a manufacturing unit requires physical strength, etc., is likely to fade quickly, and job profiles that were traditionally male-dominated could become more open for women. And women are now likely to play a bigger role in manufacturing, repair and maintenance, data analysis, mobility solutions, disruptive technology processes in this industry. Essentially, if you look at India, the female labor workforce participation in India stood at 19%, which is probably not even half of the world average. And women workforce representation in transport and automobile industry is even more lower at around 10%. And this is essentially due to various, gender stereotypes and unfavorable working conditions that women participation in the automobile industry workforce is traditionally being confined to few job roles like sales or simple assembly operations, etc. A more impactful role of women in roles such as R&D, research and design, or vehicle design, commercial driving, and repair and maintenance has been missing. As we move to electric mobility, it can be seen as an opportunity to leverage this transition to create a better balanced workforce in the automobile sector. It is essentially redefining the entire value chain of the automobile industry. While, just a simple comparison is that, an EV probably has around 230 moving parts as compared to a 1,500 part ICE engine, the traditional fossil fuel engine. In India, we have seen various companies like Ola, which is two-wheeler startup, and other companies like Okinawa, Piaggio, where they are creating all women shop floors to encourage women's participation. So essentially, that is the opportunity that electric mobility is bringing to the workforce of creating more and more roles in the value chain itself. And another second thing is also with the driving comfort that electric mobility offers, as well as the parity to the total cost of ownership. While owning an electric vehicle like a three-wheeler or a two-wheeler with the requisite range that you do, with the requisite number of kilometers that you do per day, your total cost of ownership for electric vehicles becomes much lower than an ICE vehicle. And that represents an entrepreneurial opportunity for women to earn their livelihoods through electric vehicles as well. And we've seen multiple examples of that in India. So, with that, I think electric mobility is offering an opportunity for both women to enter into the value chain of electric vehicles, as well as an entrepreneurial opportunity to create livelihoods for them.
That sounds really interesting. I'd love to dig more into the entrepreneurial side of that as well. Anu, do you have a question for Aparna?
Aparna, given that there is now this new potential for gender parity in this sector, could you share with us some practical tips of how we can embed this gender parity in processes and systems related to the electric mobility sector so we can actually see a more consistent increase in the number of women in this workforce?
This question I would like to answer with a few examples that we've seen in India. The central theme of India's G20 presidency, the aim is to reduce gender gap in workforce participation by 25% by 2025 and bringing more than 100 million women into the labor force. That in context, and recently we've seen multiple government initiatives, subsidy initiatives on electric vehicles. The FAME initiative is the biggest one. So as part of the FAME initiative, we've seen large-scale adoption of electric vehicles in India, and one of them being the National Electric Bus Program. We have seen some of the largest tenders for electric buses coming out of India in the recent times. We've had the grand challenge for around 5,500 electric buses across 5 cities, which was the largest tender for electric bus by a public agency in the world at that point. This was in 2021. One of the things that was incorporated in these tenders was to mandate that 25% of the workforce be women as either drivers, depot managers, or factory staff. So this tender, it is essentially not any agency buying electric buses. This is a service contract. So the tender is looking at providing electric bus operations for the next 12 years. And by mandating 25% of the workforce be women, we are ensuring that for the next 12 years, this workforce for, say, 5,500 buses, 25% of them be women. And some studies shows that each bus deployed will generate around 5.5 jobs. So that gives you an idea of the quantum of, this impact, right? So these are some of the things, this is one practical example of how women's entry into the automobile workforce can be made more practical through certain government initiatives. While these are laudable steps, we should also consider how women are navigating this workplace as well. There are also other initiatives from states in India. For example, Delhi has earmarked some amount of their electric 3-wheeler subsidy for women. And the state government has also taken steps to provide driver training to women to drive electric 3-wheelers and earn their livelihoods. So these are some of the simple practical things that governments across are doing to improve the gender parity in the automobile workforce through electric mobility. Yeah.
Thanks, Aparna. Back to you, Ruth.
Gunjan, can you suggest, given everything you've shared with us and your experience and knowledge, can you suggest what businesses can do to improve gender diversity in infrastructure sectors, such as energy, for example?
Thanks, Ruth. It's very interesting to see that Aparna and we are seeing similar opportunities and challenges in South Asia. There are many things that we've learned through working with WePOWER partners. One of the things that stands out is the women in the organizations are the real drivers of change in WePOWER partner organizations. The evidence-based framework that we were able to develop with them was crucial. It helped them persuade their senior management to make incremental changes. We also found that this approach is scalable. We have 38 partners in South Asia and replicable. We're seeing the same model being adopted in Middle East. There is a network already launched in Middle East called MENA, and we expect similar networks to be launched in Central Asia and in Africa in some time. In principle, the South Asian utilities offer similar opportunities for both men and women. In practice, they haven't been successful in either recruiting women or retaining them in technical positions. What is interesting is with these incremental changes, women are trying to make the workplace better for them. These are small things that they want to see changed. Small things like having facilities, having safe transportation, having access to trainings, having a career advancement plan. These are very useful first steps, and we've received good response from WePOWER beneficiaries and our partner organizations. We are very excited and humbled at the same time by our involvement in WePOWER. Changing perceptions, changing norms takes time. It takes good communication. We're learning that it takes collective action. We're also seeing that norms change when you have a critical mass of women employees in your organization. In Ceylon Electric Board in Sri Lanka, it is very usual for women to be in a senior technical position or a senior management position. It's business as usual in CEB. That's not the case in many other South Asian utilities. What we would like to see more, we'd like to see more energy organizations in South Asia nudge their employees to change behaviors and improve workforce for women. This is not going to be easy. Utilities are old organizations. They don't change easily. And I think it's important that the signal from the top is clear. And there is a system of monitoring and rewarding good performance on gender diversity. With this, incentives for utility professionals to change their behavior and change the institutional culture, I think we'll see more women entering into energy sector workforce. Again, like Aparna says, the challenge and opportunity in South Asia is enormous. There is no way we can transition into green energy without having talented women engineers working in this sector. So there's a clear business case for making changes.
Thank you, Gunjan. That was really interesting. So potentially we should consider incentives to drive change within organisations. Anu, do you have a question for Aparna?
Aparna, what would be your top tips or advice for transport electric mobility companies that are looking to improve gender diversity in their business?
So quick thoughts here. The emerging gig economy and this transition to electric mobility, it offers increased opportunities to integrate women into traditionally male-dominated transport workforce. What we've also noticed that, especially in the transport sector, as Gunjan pointed out, there are very less women in a decision-making role. And that definitely creates an impact. We have seen studies where in other sectors where there are women in decision-making roles, there are much more impactful decisions that are made with respect to, say, drinking water supply or, in any such, socially impactful roles, right? We need to think of it holistically from the grassroots level to the most highest decision-making power and large-scale capacity building and training, creating women-friendly work environments, safe transport options for women, encouraging more girls to pursue technical courses, and removal of gender-blind policy barriers that can facilitate women's entry into the transport workforce. So another quick thing here is also that, it's not that women are not taking technical courses. In India, we have probably the highest graduates of STEM courses, but we don't see, that kind of translating into more women in the workforce, right? So need to look closely as to why that is not happening. Why are women not entering the workforce? Why are they not getting promoted? Why can't we retain them? So that is going a little more deeper into the workplace itself to create more conducive policies for women to work and thrive in their workplaces, that be it transport or any other sector for that matter. And I really liked how Gunjan put it, it does make a better business case for women to be part of a team or make decisions for that team as well. Last thought on this is that, as the transport industry moves from the internal combustion engine vehicle to electric vehicles, targeted skilling efforts from formal education to vocational training, it is crucial to ensure gender parity and a just transition of the workforce. So I will stop with that. Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Aparna. Ruth?
Thank you to all our speakers. It's been a fascinating conversation. And I think we've probably got a few key points to take away. And Anu, and if you want to kick off with that.
What a fascinating conversation, Ruth. For me, there's a couple of key takeaways from what Aparna said. It made me realize that the electric mobility sector is really redefining the value chain and opening up significant roles for women in that space. But it's also an entrepreneurial opportunity for women. And so I think those practical examples that she gave of embedding requirements into tenders, I think is a really interesting way to think about how we can bring about systemic change in the system, and examples of how government subsidies can be used to create more entrepreneurial roles for women in the electric mobility space, I think are key takeaways for me.
Yeah, thanks, Anu. One of the points that really stood out for me was something that Gunjan mentioned, and that was about norms needing to change within organisations, and that there needs to be a critical mass of women employed within organisations, and that it would be wonderful to see more energy organisations improve their workforce for women, to open the doors for women in the workforce. But this is not easy. He mentioned that it's not easy, and we do understand that cultures are embedded within these organisations and within the infrastructure sector. But change does need to occur, and it needs to occur from the top, as Gunjan said. He said it is a challenge, but the opportunity is enormous. And I loved how he finished that off with, the business case is there. We just need to do it. Okay, that's a wrap. Anu, thank you. This is the last podcast in the mini-series Gender and Social Inclusion Matters in Infrastructure. Thank you to SARIC for making this podcast available for everybody who's interested in this area. We hope you enjoyed listening to experts from the field. To know about SARIC, visit their LinkedIn, Facebook and website, where you can find more about the program and partners, including the World Bank, IFC and Palladium.